All right, so I haven't done this since July
Forever.
17th. It's July
Dear
17th.
Lord.
It was like about a month before the NHL came back. And then
Forever.
everything got just busy.
Yeah.
It's still busy now, but why not? So, Kai, welcome back. I have been promising to try to finish this off.
Forever.
I don't think I'm going to finish it today because it's still like 20 pages that I've got here. So, I'll do my best. But for anybody who hasn't watched the rest of it, you're not going to understand anything that's going on. You're going to have to want to
Go back
go back.
and listen.
I'll just wait till they go back and watch the whole thing. How long is that going to take?
It's been months, so no.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
And go.
So, yeah, aliens and all that wonderful stuff, and Into the Void, volumes 1 through 3. Amazon's offering me like all these, hey, we'll help promote your book, and I'm like, it's good. It's fine. It's fine. I need to rewrite them.
No, you don't.
I do.
No.
I do.
No, because it would be different stories.
Yeah.
They do need to be edited, not by you, because you would change the story.
I would change it completely.
I know you would, so
I'd
not
start
by you.
fresh.
Right, so no, you don't get to touch it.
I'd start fresh.
No
All right.
touching.
Gora paces on the bridge, waits for word from his appointed second in command, Vorn. He doesn't have to wait long as Vorn returns to the bridge, his face conveying a feeling of shock. Your father's gone, he reports. Gone how? Gora asks. He's watched security tapes of the incident, but he cannot fathom what's happened here. Your father was apparently lured into that shuttle and then Dizak took him away. We've searched for any trace of that shuttle in this quadrant, found nothing. Our suspicion is that Dizak took him not only to another place, but to another time in order to aid our enemies. He had turned against us and must have felt that taking your father out of the picture was his best move to erode leadership within our forces. That's sound logic. There is sound logic in Vorn's suspicions. Gora's been wondering how to handle this, and he wishes he'd simply killed the clone of his father in the bowels of this ship when he had the chance. He then could have been the one to meet Dizak in that landing bay, and he simply would have killed the traitor without asking any questions. As he thought back over the years that his father was leader, he realizes that his father did talk a lot to his enemies, since he felt no one could hurt him. Gora knows he must act. This ship of Gyres could do major damage in the past. If Gora can pilot this ship into the 31st century, he could win the war just with this ship alone. The fact that so many strong leaders and ships from his enemies are here means he really needs to act and then focus on getting back to his own time with this weapon at his disposal. He can truly be what every Altilian at one point believed he would be, the ultimate leader to their triumph over Falteres and Earth. So what do we do now? Vorn asks, shaking his leader out of his daze. What's the status of our fleet? Awaiting your father's command? Patch me through then, Gora says with a smile. Vorn goes to a communications panel nearby, goes through the proper procedure to contact the ships awaiting command on the next course of action. He mumbles to himself as he routes them through to every ship at once, and then nods towards Gora. You're on every audio feed of every ship in our fleet, sir. Gora nods and clears his throat. The time has come. An assassin has killed my father. I am now in charge of this flagship for our fleet, and I mean to take those who are responsible for the death of a great man. I am Gora. I am here to lead you. I am here to fulfill prophecy. I can have a DNA sample sent to this fleet to prove it is me, but that will take some time. I don't want to waste any time. I want blood. I want to see the deaths of those who've crossed our people for the last time. Fight with me, and together we will achieve ultimate success. Let us be merciless to the merciful, he says in a low growl. He then motions to cut the transmission and turns his attention back to Vorn. Set a course for Temp. We're about to destroy our enemies and find the ultimate victory. All right, and back. Next scene. The E-215 is behind the Vindicator. The crew knows that it is unable to outgun the Vindicator or outmaneuver them, and that makes them a likely target for the Altilian fleet. Addison Marks now sits at the navigation controls with Nathan Helm manning the same controls for the Vindicator. This is a crew ready for a fight and prepared to take some punishment from a well-armed Altilian fleet as they readied for their return to their own time. We have bogies emerging underneath us, Addison says as he takes evasive action. They open fire and the E-215 is struck by numerous blasts while Addison is left to answer them as well as he can. These things are packing quite a punch, he says, as the ship does a roll faster than it ever has before. Addison dives down in between the two charging ships trying to get underneath them, as they'd done to E-215 and Vindicator. This is it, John says, aware that everything now lies in the hands of the men controlling weapons and engines. The E-215 is rocked by blast after blast from the Altilian ships. They're hitting hard, he says, darting an uneasy glance at Carissa. There's a feeling that she is on with the B crew, that the E-215 is made up of people who are deemed as expendable compared with those commanding officers from the Vindicator. Carissa's confident in Addison due to his experience and years of training, though she is greatly concerned with what they're up against at the moment. Meanwhile, the bridge of the Vindicator is also in chaos. Blasts are striking it, too. E-215's diving beneath them, Nathan says as he controls the weapons in the direction of the ship. I'll try to get behind them as best I can, he says, and the ship dives upside down, drops in behind one of the warships before opening fire. Though there are explosions from the engines on that ship, it doesn't stop fighting back. It is, however, slower in its movements as the Vindicator crippled it. I didn't expect this to happen now, Mike says, looking at the radar screen. I don't see the massive ship Geyer and Goro were on here. I wonder if something happened. I'm kind of glad they're not here, Nathan says with a smile while he focuses on the crippled warship. E-215 has caused the ships to break formation by diving beneath them. Nathan takes a shot at one of the other warships, hitting it on the underside. An explosion's seen and the ship spins into the void of space. Nathan takes another shot at that ship, even as the other ones take aim at the Vindicator. The ship's been diving to go after E-215, takes a fatal shot from Nathan's guns. The ship explodes in a ball of flame, which is quickly extinguished as oxygen dissipates into space. Nice shot, Dradgen says. Helpless to do anything, but watch what's happening. Crap, we have company, Nathan says as a massive ship appears on radar directly above them. They take massive enemy fire from all sides now. Nathan shakes his head. We can't sustain this barrage for long, he says as they take evasive action. He flies towards the nearby planet of Temp. We have to find cover. The E-215 follows closely behind Vindicator, clearly understanding the strategy at play here. The numbers favor the Altilians. They have 6 warships, with 1 now destroyed, and Geyer's flagship now joining the fray. This is a battle which will be won by the smarter side involved in the fight. On his ship, Goro wants blood. He wants to destroy them all, and then return home the hero. As the Vindicator heads for Temp, he knows they need to stop them, and he has all guns firing at the running enemy. This is the defining moment for him as leader and of his people yet again. He was a prisoner and a forgotten figure, and now he is once again the feared Altilian overlord. The entire war has gone on far too long, and now is his chance. One he wouldn't have dreamed he would have got even mere minutes ago. He thinks of his father at this moment and wonders if he would have been this aggressive. Perhaps his real father might have been, and clones were less intelligent in the art of war. The guns were all aimed at the Vindicator. He knows the other warships can overpower E-215, while his massive ship will be too much for those flying the Vindicator. There are 6 standard warships accompanying what had been Geyer's flagship, and it is a massive chase right now as their enemies try to survive the battle they simply cannot win. The explosions seen from the Vindicator are all surface impacts, and the shields appear to be holding. Goro shakes his head while watching this, the only ships he'd ever seen capable of sustaining such an attack being ones on his side of the war. Goro grits his teeth as they run straight towards Temp, and then E-215 banks to the right, while Vindicator banks to the left, and they start to orbit the planet in opposite directions. This actually causes Goro to smile. Fools, they've divided their forces, and now they're at our mercy. Goro's ship follows the Vindicator without him needing to bark any commands at his officers. They know what their target is, and the sooner they've destroyed that target, the sooner they get to go home to their time and rule the galaxy as fate meant for them to do. The shots that Goro's ship is taking are rocking it. The aft weapons of the Vindicator are every bit as powerful as the rest of their weaponry. Missiles turn to seek out their target, and the 2 Titans appear remarkably even to this point in the battle. The Vindicator suddenly goes into a steep dive downward and away from Goro's ship. They're then forced to do the same steep turn, but it is hard to control such a maneuver for an unpracticed pilot like Vorn. Maneuvering thrusters on a ship this size work a little different than those of a fighter. Meanwhile, sweat breaks out on Nathan's brow as he turns the ship into a steep dive. warning lights being set off as the Vindicator warns them it can't take much more punishment. Nathan even looks over at Mike. Might want to keep the evacuation order handy. Always. Just hope I don't need it. We believe in you, Nathan, Mike says with a wink towards his pilot. Nathan banks the ship towards Temp and hits the thrusters, taking the ship dangerously close to the planet's atmosphere. Temp is the smaller of the two livable planets in Falteri's solar system, but hitting the atmosphere head-on at full speed would still cause dangerous heating to the ship's hull. His mind wanders to the E-215 and what they must be going through, but he has to keep those thoughts out of his mind. Even as they near Temp's atmosphere, they're being heavily bombarded by the Altilian ship trying their best to follow them. Nathan is trying to make sure they hit portions of the Vindicator which still has strong shields. It's a very precarious position their ship is in, and a fine line they travel right now. In his time as a military man, Mike's never been this afraid. He has visions of his wife and of never seeing her again. He remembers the words that his other spoke to him, and wonders if this universe will reverse fate, and she'll be the one widowed in this timeline. He has to set those thoughts aside, no matter how strong they are, in his mind at this moment. When Jason Marcus left Earth mere hours ago, he never envisioned being in a life-and-death fight with Altilians who apparently were supposed to use this weaponry against their own kind. He is still trying to wrap his mind around that, and around the fact that everyone on his crew just wants to go back 2 centuries in time. He really isn't sure he wants to do that, though he knows this current point in time isn't a great one for his side in this ongoing war.
It's cats.
So Shadow had Lilybell trapped. Alright, there's no panic in Dradgen as he watches this take place, a battle long overdue in his eyes as he considers the pain and torment his people have endured for so long. This battle is for every one of his people who have been enslaved and mocked by the Altilian military and a large portion of their population. A man who once wanted peace above all else is now relishing the opportunity to bring the Altilian war machine to its knees. Nathan manages to bank the ship and skips it off Temp's atmosphere and back towards space. He then curses under his breath as he sees the ship pursuing them manage the same move with only minimal cooking of the skin on their ship. There is then a loud explosion heard on the bridge as the Vindicator and Nathan slams his hand on the bridge of the Vindicator, and Nathan slams his hands against the sides of the control panel. They got the engines. Our maneuvering is minimal now. We're dead in space, Mike says, his entire life flashing before his eyes, as their attackers get uncomfortably close to their craft, and they fear all is now lost. Meanwhile, so when I say meanwhile, it's just that it's split the scene. So I'm just saying meanwhile to say that it's a different scene. I don't have meanwhile every few paragraphs in here. The E-215 has been fortunate to have thrusters which allow it to make some amazingly deft moves that minimize the punishment they're taking from the 6 warships following them. Addison Marks is doing his best to keep them all alive while firing every laser weapon they have at the horde pursuing them. John has little to do but watch and wonder if his brother Steve might be of some use here. He played video games his whole life through, and might just be the man for this job if he were present. John really hopes he'll get to see his brothers again. He wants to go back to their time and make things right. It's clear that whatever's been happening here has altered the rightful order of things. If they win this battle, they'll likely win this war, and all the struggles if they win this battle, they'll likely win this war, and all the struggles won't have been in vain. Damned Altilians, Addison says as he targets one warship which has fallen behind the others. That ship banks left on impact and he fires again. Shields now being down, and that shot destroys the target, lowering their odds to 5-1. Addison knows this is little help in this instance, and he's pretty convinced they won't survive this battle. Oh crap, Carissa says as she sees the ship emerging ahead and opens fire. Addison hears this and prepares to target the new ship, then looks at the control panel and exclaims, "It's ours! It's the Guardian!" There's a cheer from the crew of the embattled and limping E-215 as the Guardian takes up a spot between them and the Horde to protect them from further punishment. Red lights are flashing everywhere as weapon systems are dangerously close to overheating, and shields are near the point of buckling. The hell's the Guardian doing here, John asks. Saving our asses comes to mind right now, Jim says to his brother, patting him on the back. Maybe there's hope for us yet. Meanwhile, Tanya feels fortunate they have arrived now. The battle had been picked up by their ship in orbit near Falteris, and they scrambled to get here and stop the Altilians from achieving their master plan. She looks out the front window at the 5 warships they're engaging and knows They will not be such a small number for long. These ships have quite the firepower going for them, Craig says, as he mans a majority of the weapons on the Guardian. There are two other men helming other weapons from the bridge, as though the Guardian is more heavily armed than the Vindicator. The ship rocks from shots fired at them, though the warships slow their speed upon sighting the ship. They didn't expect us, Tanya says, though she's careful not to celebrate too early here. There's a lot of work to be done. No one's deployed the KG-329 fighters, Craig says, scratching his head. We aren't planning to be here long, and fighters won't do a lot against those massive warships. It'd be like throwing rocks at them. The KG-329 is great for fighting other ships close to its size, but it's not so well armed, and they're no match for those things. Besides, we're pressing the red button that'll destroy everything, and I don't want to leave everyone behind. Katie wonders where Mike is in this mess. She doesn't see the Vindicator, and she hopes that it's still intact. She'd hate to lose her husband like this when it was so close. Yet, he isn't aware she's here with him. Her thoughts also turn to Dizak, and she wonders if she'll be able to make a difference and give him a chance in this battle as he had intended to. She would try and send a signal to the Vindicator, but if Mike's out there fighting right now, his mind will be on the battle. Meanwhile, I said, turn everything off, Mike shouts to the crew. He's playing a hunch. One he knows is a very dangerous one. The lights in the bridge shut down, the same as they had for the rest of the ship. The ship drifts sideways instead of charging forward. The engines are fully off, and only the shields and weapons have any power to them, though the weapons have stopped firing. Really hope you have a plan here, Nathan says as he tries to keep his breathing steady. He wants to fire so badly, especially knowing how crippled the ship actually is. I have a hunch. Right now, it's the only thing we have against that damn ship. Open a hailing channel to them. Let's give them a show. A few of you need to be on the floor dead or something, he says. Members of the crew fall to the floor as commanded, though none do who are at the controls of anything related to weapons or shields. It's a very dangerous ploy, and it has to be played right, or they are only going to delay their defeat by mere seconds. The image viewed through the window of the Starscape beyond is replaced by an image of Gora smirking from the bridge of his ship. This actually makes Mike feel better, though he can't show that yet. I see you're in command, not your father. Father had to step out, Gora says. Looks like I managed to win our final game of chess. Is this the part where you beg for your life? Mike manages a smile. Altilians aren't known for taking prisoners. I want to talk deal here. You have nothing I want. Not even him? Mike asks, and he points to Jason Marcus, who's barely visible to Gora from the back of the Vindicator bridge. Mike motions Jason over to him, and the Earthling weapons manufacturer and designer reluctantly makes his way to Mike's side. What are you doing? Jason asks. Yes, what are you doing, Mike? This is just a man, Gora says. This is Jason Marcus, an Earthling who designed the weapon your father used to wipe out a large portion of your planet's population. I figured he might be a person of interest to you, and maybe we could talk about a deal here. They'll kill me, Jason says. Gora narrows his eyes to slits and tries to read the mind of his foe here. He spent a lot of time with Mike and felt he had a good idea when he was or wasn't bluffing from games of cards they'd played together. In their last few games of poker, Gora had cleaned Mike out, but he'd wondered if maybe it was too easy and there was some other psychological game going on there. Mike, why would you offer someone to me who you saw fit to steal from the future? He was reported as being on the Arcane, and apparently you saw fit to take him. Now you offer him to me? It's leverage. By having him with me, that gives me leverage with you, and with the Arcane as well. That Alan Webster guy, total prick. He's simply too much of a fool to have such a man working for him. I'm not even interested in the weapons this guy creates. I just want to make sure we get home and let the chips fall where they may. Why should the fight end here when we know where it should end? Mike asks. I just want it to end. Send Jason to me and we go home. You get stuck here, but you get to live. That's as close to making a deal as you're going to get from me on this battlefield. Mike pauses, looks over at Jason. He sees fear in the Earthling's eyes. He can't say or do anything to ease this man's mind, as that would give the plan up, and they'll be dead. He turns to Nathan. Let me know when we're in any shape to make this transfer. He turns back to Gora. Our landing bay's lost power, and we have to get it powered up to get a shuttle out of it and send Jason to you. You have 5 minutes, and then we turn you into dust. 5 minutes will have to be long enough, Mike says with a nod, and then cuts the feed between the ships. I bought us 5 minutes. Leave all engine and auxiliary power systems down. Gora will be scanning that. He pats Jason on the back. I'm not handing you over. Just buying us time for Nathan to work his magic. Nathan sighs. Yeah, no pressure, Mike. Meanwhile, Craig fires a missile between two of the attacking warships and it explodes between them, causing their course to become unstable. He fires one missile into each sides of the warships, and they erupt for a moment into twin balls of flame before they disappear into space. Craig would love to high-five himself for that, but this is hardly the time for that, as there's still three other ships, and they're trying to flank their position. He drops their ships down, careful not to expose E-215 in the process, and he's glad to see they're matching his moves. Nice work, Craig, Tanya says as she assumes the role of cheerleader in this fight. She looks at the long-range radar and sees a ship drifting on the other side of Temp. The size of the object matches that of the Vindicator, but they have to believe that the ship will be able to fight for itself right now. If they leave E-215 or draw these warships to the other side of the planet, that could be deadly all around. Damn, we have more Altilian ships coming in. I have no bloody clue where they came from either. They're not like anything I've ever seen. On screen, Tanya says as her heart skips a beat. Carissa brings the image up, and Altilian ships matching the markings of other warships are there, but they're a different color, and they're deploying fighters from their landing bay. Carissa then looks at the readings and scowls. Temperature of the universe is rising. Dizak set this computer to warn us about that. That's a bad sign. They're from a parallel universe, Tanya says. And her work becomes a lot more complicated as she watches these new ships coming at them and ready to engage in brutal warfare. Meanwhile, the scars on Rex's face tell all the story. He's been through many battles in this war, one which had seemed pointless since the nuclear assault launched by General Mike Translow a few years ago. So this one's from the same universe as the other general was. He has been fighting to bring Altil back to its former glory and to avenge the deaths of great leaders like Sabal and Geyer. There's been a disturbance in the space around their ship, and the universe had appeared to glow before they appeared here near Temp and ready to engage the ships before them. He felt this had to be a scheme by the enemy to bring him and his forces here for one last stand, and he was ready to fight with everything he had. But the Guardian's one of ours, a confused first officer Vorn says. This is the other Vorn. This crew unaware of any time travel element or universe jumping experience that they were having. He prepares to open fire as their landing bay empties of their fighters, which are mostly refitted KG-329 fighters they've dubbed as pirate ships that were stolen and changed to suit their needs. The Guardian's firing on 3 of our warships, which means it's been overrun by their filth. This has to be stopped. The war ends today, Wreck growls. The crew watches in horror as guns from the Guardian target the pirate fighters and start taking them out with single shots each. In their timeline, warships don't have the ability to fight small fighters like this, as they aren't seen as any kind of a threat. Rex sees this as a dirty play. If they want to be a bully, we can bully as well. Target that other ship, Rex says, and he commands that they point at the E-215. Meanwhile, where the hell did they come from? Addison asks as he sees the new Altilian threat before them. He also sees they're exposed for prime shots from that ship, and he opens fire immediately with everything they have left. All shield generators being redirected to send all power to the front shields, Addison says, before John can give that order. E-215 is rocked by shots it really can't afford to take. The shields are near the point of buckling when another ship appears before them. It's the Peace Restorer. Walls between realities are falling now as the battle continues. Where did that come from? John asks, as the Peace Restorer starts to exchange fire with the Altilian ship. Before anyone can answer that rhetorical question, the Peace Restorer promptly explodes in a ball of fire from shots it takes from the 3 warships that should be engaging the Guardian. Addison continues firing while he hopes that wasn't their Peace Restorer. He knows a lot of good people on that ship, and he's selfish in his desire for people from his timeline to live, though if this entire future is wiped out, the ripple effect on the universe could be huge. Even Dizak had said to Addison he didn't know what the far-reaching consequences could be for this battle. And this is where I legit had paper, and I'd mapped out who was where on the battlefield, because there's no way I could have followed it. Right. There's no way I could have followed this. So if this ever became a movie, I'd be like, okay, I got to direct this part. I got to just, no, it's the battle scene. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Spielberg. I'm sorry. I need to do this part, Mr. Spielberg. All right. Meanwhile, Craig shakes his head while he watches so many different targets go in so many different directions, and they all attempt to evade the shots he's firing. A missile hits its target on one of the warships and destroys it in a ball of fire. It doesn't even register to Craig as progress with all the uncertainty they're dealing with right now around the Guardian. This is the largest battle Tanya's ever seen, and she's pretty sure it is the largest and most aggressive battle of this war. A war usually fought behind veiled plans and slow-moving chess matches was now rapid fire, and she hoped her ship was the best suited to win this match. She considers the fact she never settled down and had kids. Wonders if that makes this entire battle more difficult or easier to handle. If she dies here, she leaves no legacy behind. In a dark corner of the bridge, Kelsey stands next to Katie as they watch helplessly, and Kelsey's nerves show far more than Katie's. She feels sick to her stomach as the ship pitches and rolls, the artificial gravity pulling on her innards as it would on a roller coaster. Though they aren't quite this dangerous. She's thinking about the fact she never had kids either, and she might have bit off more than she can chew when she agreed to come along with her sister on this adventure. The Altilian Phantom that appeared before them is still targeting the E-215, and Craig is having some difficulty in getting his ship to protect that one from all sides. The remaining 2 warships are targets of men manning the other weapons, so Craig is at least glad he can focus solely on the uninvited guest, which could be from a parallel universe or another time. Those 2 remaining warships explode in a ball of flame. Craig fires a series of missiles at one particular part of the Altilian warship, and that explodes as well. How did you know where to hit that? Tanya asks. That's the same ship Gora brought to Earth, and the Peace Restorer took that out with one hit. The one he figured was unstoppable. I guess in any universe, it's highly stoppable. Craig looks at the radar, and we have 10 more warships closing in on our position. We're so screwed. Nope, this is another card to be played, Tanya says, and she looks at the flashing red button. She's looked at it hundreds of times since Dizak left, well aware it could take them home and destroy this universe at the same time. It was a matter of knowing when to press the button and hoping it would allow their allies to come home as well. This is just piled onto the uncertainty regarding everything going on around them. How many more pages does this? Yeah. Alright, so it's another... Alright, because we're already up to 27 minutes.
No, this might be
So,
the longest one yet.
What I'll do, we'll just have to do more tomorrow.
Yeah. I like this plan.
So, tomorrow I should be able to almost finish it. I'll be able to finish the battle tomorrow. But yeah, I had it all written down, and I had which characters were on which ship as well, because there was no way I was going to be able to... And the 3 volumes build up to that battle.
Right.
So it's just the whole... Everything just all at once, all these characters together. And the funny thing is, the battle just kind of started. That's why I put in there that Mike was surprised, because I was surprised too. I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this now. I didn't know I was going to have the battle now. Cool. Because when I write books, they kind of write themselves. So the whole idea of doing videos in one take, I was doing books in one take. So, and there's benefits and there's drawbacks to that. Definitely benefits to having a plot line all figured out and you know, how you're going to get from point A to point B and everything. But to me, it's always more fun if I'm writing and I don't know where the story's going. I let the story take me places. So that's why I need to rewrite them.
No.
So
It would be a different story.
see, and I took this picture. I went outside of our galaxy and I took that picture. That was, what, 6 months ago? That was fun. Went outside the galaxy. And I took that picture from space. So there you go.
Such a dork.
All right, so I will try to get this finished up by the end of this week. I apologize that it's not been
Forever.
It's been a long time,
Been forever.
but I want to finish it up. And then this summer, maybe we can do part 4. I downloaded it on the computer, so I have part 4.
Good.
I have part 5 as well.
Nice.
So there you go. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for your patience, Kai. I apologize it took this long. It's been since July. But, you know, better late than never.
Sam's a slacker.
And, yeah. So if you just didn't understand anything was going on there, you need to go back and watch some of the rest. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means a ton. This channel passed 16,600 subscribers.
Nice.
So that's kind of fun. All right. Thanks again, guys. And I'll talk to you again soon.